Just finished sanding this down and leveling it with 800 grit sandpaper, and that's the pretty much the, let's see if we can find the actual piece of paper here. Okay, just finished lacquering this, or I'm sorry, not just finished. What did I just finish doing? Okay, this has been lacquered with Target Coatings Emtech EM6000. I sprayed it on with an HVLP sprayer, a turbine system that I have. I have a Fuji system with an Apollo gun, and I've waited a little bit more than probably about 10 days to let this cure fully. I sprayed 6 coats on it, I leveled it, and then sprayed 6 additional coats, and I waited 10 days after that, and I just finished level sanding it with 800 grit open cut paper by 3M. Works very nice, doesn't clog up too much, and I did that as a dry sand. I've tried going buffing straight out of there, but I find that there's still, the 800 grit, as fine as it is, still has a good deal of scratches involved in it and left on the surface. I could buff them out, but what I also found out along the way is that water base, or at least for the Target Coatings product, less is more, and that's a phrase given to me by Jeff himself. So heating it up doesn't really work well with it. It can blister. So what I try to do is not use the all 3 buffing wheels that I've done with nitro. So I dry sand with 800, and then I'm going to move up to get the rest of the scratches out, or most of the, well, about pretty much rest of the scratches out. I'm going to go to 1500 wet sand and then 2000 wet sand. This really doesn't take that much effort. It's just really, by the time you get it, you can kind of feel it sticking and then becoming free. So I've got just some warm water with a little bit of Murphy's oil soap in there for lubrication. And this really takes the scratches out very quickly. I've also buffed after the 1500, and it's okay, but I find that for the little bit of effort that I have to put in to do this portion of the sanding, it's well worth it. The ease of buffing after this is really, whether you're doing it by hand, and I buffed it by hand, but I prefer to use my wheels. I like them. After having a few pieces ripped out of my hand over the years, I've gotten fairly comfortable with it, so I like doing the buffing wheel. It works quickly for me. Now this is 1500. And really, it's very easy to feel it going from kind of a rough feeling to smooth surface. And as always, I don't care if it's 1500, 2000, 2500, whatever. Got to go lightly over these edges. And even though I spend some time and I go, oh, I'm going to put more lacquer on these edges, that really doesn't help. because the edge will only take so much lacquer, I guess. One thing you'll notice when you do this, doesn't appear to be too much on the neck here, but on the body it gets a strange look to it. It's not real smooth and polished until you put the buffing wheel on it. It looks like almost like it's got a little bit of water stain to it or something like that. I initially was concerned about that, but it turns out that really that was nothing. It buffs right out, again, either by hand or by buffing wheel. So I never had a problem with that, even though it kind of looked funny initially. And if you're used to doing nitro or one of the solvent-based finishes, you certainly don't see that. Yeah, let's see here. You usually see it on the flat surfaces a little bit more. I do see it showing up here. I don't think you're going to be able to get a good shot of that. Try to put a light on it. Nah, it's not. I don't think it's going to. And it'll have the same look when I do the 2000. But anyway, it's not a problem. So if you're looking at this, or you tend to use water-based, or in particular the Target Coatings, which I love, stuff buffs out beautiful. And if you put it on, it's almost brainless to put the stuff on. It goes on so nicely. It doesn't really run all over the place. And here I'm going to go down with 2000 now. And this really removes any scratches from the previous papers very nicely. And I'm really applying no pressure. I'm just enough pressure to keep the pad flat, but that's really it. This is going to look great. This is a custom 00 neck here. 13 fret to the body. And the initial sanding with the 800 paper takes a little bit longer, of course. It's a dry sand, but I like the dry sand up to that grit because I can see exactly what's going on. In the early part of doing that, I tried wet sanding right up on front even with like the lower grits, but I can't really see it. It's too much trouble for me.